So I thought I would start a new textile project and just kind of take you along for the ride as I tried to figure out what I was going to do with it. I've got some pieces of felt that I had just taken some scraps of fabric and tacked them down. Sometimes I didn't tack them down very well, so they all fell off. And then I just hit it with some diluted fabric paint, some magicals I think I tossed in there. And so I've got a few of them. And this is the one that's calling to me today. I can't get the colors to come quite so true, I don't think, on the screen, but it's a lovely little teal that makes me think of the ocean. And as you can see, it's just your regular piece of felt, and I didn't get it all tacked down before I hit it with paint, so some of them fell off, so I just have the felt here. And if you've seen one of my recent videos about planning a project, I like to start with a piece of felt often, especially if I'm just kind of playing around, I'm doodling with the fabric and the fibers, because it just gives me a way to kind of think small and not feel like I have this huge piece that I have to finish in a certain amount of time. And this just lets me experiment with some techniques as well. So you can do something like this. I've got all kinds of fabric on here. These were just little, I kind of stayed in the neutral and blue tones. And then of course this was like black and white, so you're going to see some of that pattern come through. If you don't like that, then you can certainly cover it with something else. It's also fun to do this with covering it with lace, which if you saw my storm vessel, that one was covered almost completely with lace and then painted. And that gives you a lot of really great textural effects. This was just kind of like a starting point. It's got to go through its ugly phase before we decide where we're going to go with it. So I've got some other fabric. I'm not going to worry about the part of the felt that's not covered because I can fill that in with stitch or something else. My needle's going to go through here. Here's a needle. It's going to go through the felt just fine. It's not a big deal. So I could cover it with some fabric if I wanted to. I could cover it with some lace. But what I tend to like to do when I'm getting started on a new project, oh yeah, I found this. That was like a perfect match for in there. So I'm definitely going to want to use this. I like to start with couching. And I'm already thinking vessels because I really like doing the tall vessels, and a piece of felt, you know, when it's all done, can fold up into a nice tall vessel. Or you can fold it in half and do a short vessel, or you can cut it. But I'm probably going to work with it like that, either as a vessel or as a wall hanging. And if I'm thinking about couching, which is just a great way to just kind of jump in. Okay, I don't like that blue as much as I thought I did. You don't need to make it difficult. Couching is just tacking down some threads. Those colors go really nicely in there. If I could combine them, and then I've got that fun fiber, and then I've got this. I don't know which way I'm going to go. I've got some threads already picked out, but I'm not going to worry about that right now because threads can come later. First, I kind of want to figure out the couching because then I can fill in the places that I want to. All right, so I'm going to put the thread out of the way, and I like this a lot. All right, so I like to start with couching, and I will confess these dark ones are really bugging me on here, so I really am almost thinking about adding something to it now, but I'm going to try and make myself wait because I really think it'll be better if I wait for that. And couching is just such a fun way to add. I like the contrast on here. So you've got a few options. You can just sort of randomly drop it down. And then you can just keep layering it up if you want. And you think, well, it's so busy, except by the time you get this tacked down, it goes a little bit flatter. And then you add stitching in between. So that is an option. And then you can come back over, and you could actually just do this whole piece, not doing anything else except for couching, and then maybe knots. Fill in the little spaces in between with knots. That could be really fun. Okay, that's a nice length. So that is one thing, and then you could just even add this on top of it. That is not bad. I would not hate working on this at all. All right, but that's one option. Another thing you could do, what if you wanted to be a little more precise about something? You could start couching a spiral. And you know, my problem with the spiral, I think, is trying to be too precise. I think that's going to be an issue for me. One of the other things, what if, you know, this kind of looks like the ocean. So what if you did couching kind of like in a wave format? And then you could take another color. And you could do that. I kind of like that too, because then as you add each layer, this is kind of interesting. Okay, so I think this has potential, because what if, that's one of my favorite phrases, what if? Okay, what if you took a bunch of different fibers and you did this sort of a wavy thing, and you want to leave space in between so you can still see a little bit of that coming through. Then you could take little bits of lace, and you can, you know, you can even couch lace. If you cut a thin strip of this and twist it, you could couch that in there. But you could also just take little bits of lace and tuck it in and out of there. But I kind of like this wave format. I'm thinking that might be something I want to do. So the thin, easily tangled stuff is going to be the last one to go up. So I'm going to get that out of the way. And the fun fur is going to go towards the end. And we're going to use the heavier stuff first. But I think I'm going to go see if I have any other blues that I might want to add in there. All right, so I went back to the studio and took a look around, but I figured I had already gotten the colors out that went with that. I didn't. It's a lovely color, but I don't have a lot of fibers in this color. There's this one. I don't like the yellow with it, so that's okay. I'm going to be okay with it. I like to think in terms of odd numbers, so 3 or 5 rows. And I'm just going to roughly pin this down just to kind of get an idea of a lot more of this yarn. It's not quite the right color, but I think it's a good accent. Sometimes when I do couching, I just let it like fall on the fabric and kind of go wherever it wants to go. So if we're doing, I think 3 sounds good. And I can always add more, but I think I want to leave room for stitch. We'll see. We'll see. You know, and so right now it's just playtime. It's just playtime. It's not stress about it. And of course with me, now maybe it's different for you, but with me, once I start couching, it doesn't stay in exactly the same spot. So if I'm thinking vessel, this, you know, these soft waves are going to go around the vessel. All right, yeah, 3 feels good. All right, let's grab some sari ribbon. Now, one of the other things you can do for variety is you could take these two and sort of wrap them together. Now, I kind of like that too. Look at that. That gives you a completely different look. It is a little harder to keep that soft look with it, but I don't know. I don't want to fiddle that much with this piece. I want it to just be a relaxing, fun thing. So I think I'm just going to cut. Now, you don't even have to paint the fabric. If you have a whole lot of something, like I've got a kind of an icy blue, and I was thinking about just grabbing a piece of felt, some icy blue sari ribbon, and I was going to just couch one right after the other, and that would give you a completely different effect. So you could do that all the way up your piece of felt, and then you can embroider or bead or do all these other things to it. So that's another option. And remember, you're not necessarily going to love it when you're at this stage of things. You're going to be kind of like, that's not quite what I was going for, because you don't know what you're going for, maybe. I mean, unless you're a planner. If you're a planner, more power to you. I am so not a planner. All right, so I have end pieces here, and there's a couple things I can do. I can just go ahead and start at the end. I could work my end pieces into the design by coming back up a little bit. That might be kind of interesting. But I don't know. I'm not so sure that I like that. Maybe I like it with the yarn and not with the sari. Maybe the yarn has to go in and out of the sari ribbon. One of the other things you can do is when you take your little end piece, you have little chunks like this, and depending on what your fiber is made out of, you get like this wonderful little fluff. And you can stitch that down in various places for textures. So I could just sort of freeform this. Yeah, kind of liking this idea. And then I can come back with my thin thread. Now this is thin enough. I could also use this for stitching, but I kind of like the three of them together. I think that's where I'm heading, and then I will add this in it. So I'm going to pause this, and I will couch this down, and then I'll come back and show you where I'm at and what I'm going to do next. Yeah, I like that idea.